My name's David Toop. I'm here in the John Latham exhibition at the Serpentine Gallery, and I'm going to say something about John's film Speak. Just shortly before making Speak, John had been experimenting with coloured paper, laying coloured paper on the floor and moving them, shooting a few frames at the time. But for Speak, he sped it up. He was shooting one frame for each image and then moving them around. So you get this incredible torrent of imagery, shapes moving, changing, colour, and this feeling of extraordinary dynamism in the film. There's the feeling of flatness that he learned from El Greco, but then there's the implication constantly of changing space. And you feel that you're in a universe of flux.
For me, it was a very important figure. I only worked like a day a week, and I think what I love is he had always this very strong distance to the art world, though it was so focused. I mean, he knew his position in the art world and he played with it, but it was always zero lost in trends or, you know, he just had to get his message across. And I think that was so important. He did pass his message to me so many times, and often repeating it as his work as well, as we repeat ourselves. He was quite eccentric person in the best possible way. I think we had a great relationship.
The 90s, John said, I'm going to do something on this works I really like, but it's difficult to make physically. Someone says, why don't we make it together? And he said, oh yeah, it will be. And we had this space, and I was very much excited to participate all his ideas. And that is the beginning of the scoop box, which I didn't know anything about the scoop box. And it was fascinating to get to know. And I think it's a good idea to see how John Latham comes up with these ideas and then how some of the works can be realized.
I think I met John in 1985, which is quite a while ago. And I suppose this idea of the context is 50% of the work was a huge influence on me. This idea that John had about the difference between the accidental and the incidental was a big influence on me, still is every day. You know, what's the difference between an accident and an incident? An incidental person happens to be somewhere and happens to do the most appropriate thing for the space, whether it be called art or not, it doesn't really matter.
This was the culmination of many years after he developed lots of theoretical writings and ideas about time base. So in that work, really, you have the frequency of a very short event represented on the left-hand end of the spectrum, and the frequency of the very slow or low frequency events are all on the right-hand end of the spectrum. So with all this spectrum of possible frequencies going right the way to the right-hand end, which is to the recurrence of the entire universe, or even beyond, we have this full range of spectrum. And interestingly enough, the human being and the modus operandi of the human sits quite near the middle or slightly to the right of this spectrum. So as you see the barrel of the spectrum moving, it's possible to focus on the recurrence interval of different arrangements that are on the back of the canvas. And in this case, of course, it was the last experiment that he did really with the time-based idea. And he's showing in a rather more sort of poetic way interesting things that you can represent at different positions on the time-based spectrum. John was very much involved in these aspects of a cosmology that would bring together an understanding of humans and everything, basically. And there are two works in this show that have that same intensity of pulling together all the theoretical ideas. And there's this one, and then there's another one, which is the story of Rio, which I hope everyone will have a look at.